Guess what? Laying down in the comfort of my own bed. And most likely, probably not going to be a lot of people on here to see the video. At least not right now because everyone's sleeping and it's 1:30 in the morning. Central Time here in Houston. The title of this video, as you can obviously see, is retirement. You know, this conversation tends to come up a lot because a lot of people, are going to be heading into retirement. You got, the boomer generation, baby boomers. A lot of them are, retiring by the year or whatever because they put in X amount of time to, put in for your work or whatever based on your age and how many years of, service have you done with whatever particular job you've had, right? So, every year there's always new people retiring, you know? And then pretty soon it's going to be Gen Xers. They're going to get to retire when that time comes up. Probably, I'm guessing, in maybe like 20 to 30 to 40 years, somewhere in there. It'll be the Gen Xers' turns. And then after that, it's going to be the Millennials. And then there's going to be Gen Z. And then what is it? Gen Alpha is next. And then whatever, the next generations. Blah, 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 blah. It's going to keep going and going and going and going. You know, there's always been like this conversation about retirement in regards to, well, what is the retirement age? When should people be able to retire? And, growing up, I was always told it was 66. 66 is sort of the government form of retirement. That's like when you could be able to file for, your Social Security, get your Social Security, and live off of that or whatever. And if you got an IRA, and if you got any stock options, or you got any CDs, or any sort of retirement benefits, 401k, when it's time to hit that retirement, right? So 66 was always the age that it was time to retire, right? Of course, I'm nowhere near that, but 62 is when you can file for Social Security. That's when you can first file for it. But of course, you got to wait till you're like 70 if you want to file for it to really get the most out of it. It's always this debate about what the retirement age should be, and you know when should people be able to retire and enjoy the rest of their life, or what little life, to be able to enjoy, because life's short at the end of the day. It's very short. Life is very short, and we take many things for granted. I think we're all a little guilty of that. I'll be the first to admit that I'm a little guilty of taking my life for granted, right? And I think people need to really humble themselves, because again, it's tomorrow's not promised, and no one says you're going to live forever. You're not going to live to see 100 or 200 or 75. There's no guarantees, right? Anything can happen. An accidental, it could be health related issue. It could be a silent killer like a heart attack or something. Anything can happen at any moment. Where people, there's no guarantee. You see people dying at young ages at birth. You see people, celebrities, and all these people dying at certain like particular ages, and you're like, wow, there's no like idea of what the age is going to be when you're expected to pass, or how long you're going to live up to. Like ideally, I would love to live to 100 or 120, like the Bible says, right? It says that the humans can live to 120. But realistically, that's probably not going to happen, most likely for me. I doubt I'll live to see 100. I'll be lucky if I live to see 80 years old. I'll be honest with you. I made some really bad choices in regards to my health, not eating right, not taking my diet seriously, um, not working out, not staying by a workout plan, not following on my health. I mean, there's a lot of things that I fucked up on, a lot of things that I did wrong on. But I will say that when it comes to like the retirement aspect, right? People say, well, there's real good retirement benefits out there. All these jobs you get that are lined up. They're like, hey, you can get you know, a job here, a job there, a job here, a job there. Hey, look at the retirement benefits. That's the first thing you hear about. Retirement benefits are great. You can retire with a 401k. You can retire with, full medical, full medical. You can retire with, full medical, dental, eye care, vision. You can retire with a 2-for-1 in certain cases. You can retire with all these great assets that'll set you off into your future. And so you're like, well, this sounds like a pretty cool deal. You get vacation time, sick time, you get all these benefits. There's the incentive. We got this incentive package for you to come work for us. And you're like, wow, this is great. I get to, have an actual future, right? You think there's a future ahead. And I get to retire, and man, I can't wait. And man, I can't wait till I turn 66 and I can retire and I can put in for it. And, I put in my 20, 30 years, I put my 40 years in work. I'm a working man, 45 years, 50 years in some people's cases. I met a 94-year-old man that worked at Walmart when I was there. And this was back in 2020. Real good guy. His name was John. And I thought maybe he was 60 something years old. And he told me he owned a cleaning service in San Francisco, and he used to clean in San Francisco back in I think it was like back in like the fucking 60s or 50s. And I said, wait a minute. I said, how old are you, bro? You're like, what, 60, right? I said, that don't make sense. He said, no, I'm 94. I said, what the fuck? He was 94 years old, good shape, walked with a little limp, but health wise, man, that guy kept it moving, man. Good worker, good guy. He was married 3 times, and he's just generally a good, decent human being, man. That's why sometimes I like talking to older people because they have a lot of wisdom, knowledge, and they share a little joy, and you can just tell they're very humble, very happy, complacent. Not all baby boomers are bad people, of course, even though we like to blame them for our life problems. But, there are some decent people that are older, and you can kind of learn from them, have conversations and get kind of a life experience and get their perspective on things from like a non-biased point of view. And so, anyways, one day he just stopped coming to work. I'll never forget. I say, hey, what happened to John, man? And they're like, yeah, he's not here anymore. I'm like, he's not at work? Yeah, man, but we haven't heard from him in a while, man. I don't think he's alive anymore. And I was like, fuck. But hey, he lived a long life. 94 is a long time. And I would like to think maybe he might even be still alive. If he's alive today, he's 98 years old. I shit you not. One of the greatest fucking human beings I ever met in my life. And I've met some pretty cool people, but this guy was really fucking cool to talk to. I would even wish I was 94 with him, just to say I was born in his era. Just to say that I was. Yeah, me too. Yeah, in 70s. Well, anyways, and I'm not, it's not that I'm not looking at the camera, not reading comments, ignoring you guys. It's just, I get in my own zone at times. I like to zone out and talk, say whatever's on my mind peacefully. So, anyways, make a long story much, much longer. Man, this guy worked his whole life. Like, probably said he told me he was working at like 8 years old. And at 94, dude, that's 80 fucking 6 years of work. And I told him, why don't you ever retire, man? 94, don't you think you want to retire and enjoy whatever? Nah, man, I just want to keep moving, man. I don't want to stop moving. I don't want to sit at the house do nothing. I want to get do something. And I was like, wow, that was just a great story. So, anyways, he uh, you know, I think he finally retired. I would like to think that he did. I think he finally just said, "Fuck it." He was. I think he was going on 95 years old, and he's like, "Yeah, it's time to. I just put in the rack and enjoy my last whatever months or years I have left." Hopefully, he's still alive. I would like to. I would like to think he was still alive. I hope he's still alive. Wish I would have had his number. In fact, I might still have his number saved, but I don't know. But man, I mean, to think that you live that long, you put all these years, decades in the work, and he was so prideful and joy, but yet when he finally decided to lay it down and say, it's time for me to put my torch down, it's time for me to retire, it's time, for me to settle down. I would like to think, if let's say assuming he passed away, just think 86 years of working and not even being alive for like not even 5 years to enjoy the fruits of your labor, to live in retirement. That's just goes to show you how delicate life is and how we take life for granted so much. And not to mention that you think that's like when it's time for you to finally lay it down, because I know 66 is that's that ideal number to retire. But some people don't want to stop moving, so they'll keep doing it because they don't want to, like, they want to get some exercise. Maybe it's their only way to get exercise is to work. So they'll get like that last, maybe they'll push to 75 or 80 and just say, okay, well, fine. And then just, you hear these stories, they die like not even months after their retirement. It's almost sort of like you live to work, and then as soon as you cash out, it's like your body says, oh, I'm done. I want off this earth. And it's like weird how that plays out, because this profession that I work in now, for those of you who know, I'm a corrections officer, and that's part of law enforcement. I've heard stories of guys working there 30 years in the force. And this is not just in law enforcement, this is just jobs in general, but I'm just giving you kind of an example of, like, there was this story I heard about this lieutenant that worked like 33 years, and he find like he didn't like he retired and then died a month later. It's like, wow, like you worked and then you finally, you're like, I'm at that retirement age. It's like, okay, I think I'll put in some years. Let me just go ahead and retire. And it's like in your mind, you think, I'm going to live 20 or 30 years past this. So I'll kind of enjoy the fruits of my labor. I'll live to be 95. We tell each other that all the time. I'll be 100 years old. I'll be 105. I ain't tripping. I retire 75. Okay, that's 30 years I can retire for. And it's like, then all of a sudden you put in for the retirement, and you finally like, okay, the sun is setting, I'm off, it's time to, put that, it's time for me to do other venues in life, and, venture off in the sunset. And then boom, all of a sudden it's like you just leave the earth one day, miraculously, heart attack, you know, just die, you know, it's just, you think, man, it's time to retire. It's time to settle off in the sunset. And then your body, it's like your mind is programmed to think, I'm done with work. But then it's like, then your body says, no, I'm just done with living. Like, if you kind of think about it, it's like your body just decides it just wants to move on from earth. And it's just, maybe it's like, we train ourselves to work, 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 work. And then it's just like when it's finally time to put in for that retirement, it's like your mind says one thing, but then your body says another. Your body's like, no, it's time to fucking, it's time to cash out. It's just, you know, it's, um, it's like, you work your whole life to get to that point of retirement, and then it's like, then it's time to retire, and it's like a lot of people don't get to experience the fruits of their labor of that retirement by basically saying, if assuming you're going to live to 90, I mean, yeah, sure, you can, the average human is living a lot longer from what I'm hearing. But then again, if you figure you retire at, let's say, 65, 70, and then you live to be 79, let's just say, okay, well, that's 9 years of actual enjoying the fruits of your labor, despite putting in your 50 fucking years of service. It's like, it's kind of like sucks, because it's like, well, damn, it's like, well, you got to figure, well, all these companies know, right? They know that, oh shit, we know that these guys aren't going to live up to be 75 or 80. We know you're not going to make it that long. So let's just go ahead and, let's tell them that, 66, yeah, sure, you can retire. 70, let's push it up to 70. Okay, bet. Yeah, that's fine. I'll be around then. And then all of a sudden you retire and you're just gone. And they know that most people are not going to make it that long to actually retire, to actually reap the benefits of their fruits and labor based off of their job setting. Think of how that sounds. You work your whole life, and then when it's time to cash out, it's just now the time is ticking. And like, how long will you actually be alive to enjoy that retirement? It's kind of crazy how that sounds. Like, it's kind of crazy just knowing that we live our whole lives to work, basically. And then it's just okay, time to retire. Yep, now we're dead. We're like, just some tragic event happens. My dad's best friend is a retired HPD cop. They joined the force back in the 80s and then retired in 2013. And he told me he had a really good friend that he knew was a sergeant. And then when he retired, 1 month into his retirement, died. Just think, you know, 25, 30 plus years of service, in the profession. And then when it's time to say, it's time for me to lay it down, I'm done. And then it's just like, you don't even live long enough to see it. It's just crazy. It's just crazy how that sounds, right? Like, just how, like, you have to just work, and then it's time to retire, and then you just miraculously die a month later, or days later, or a year later, or 2 years later. And so, like, when you think of retirement, you think, man, that's fucking badass. I can't wait to retire, and I can't wait to like to set off in the sunset. And I can't wait to, finally reap the benefits of my fruit and labor of all the years that I've worked and all the money I've saved and all the money I've invested and all the money I did this. And then it's just, and then you're like, yep, I think I'm gonna cash this one in and put up my boots, put up my cleats. Wrestling, they'll hang their boots or whatever, put them in the middle of the ring. You're like, yep, it's my time to finally retire. And then all of a sudden, it's just, 1 month later, boom, you're gone, just like that, just like that, you're gone. Isn't that crazy how life is? That crazy. Just the thought of that, the thought process of retiring, enjoying that, and then it just like kind of messed up that you don't even get to really enjoy your retirement long enough. I mean, just think about it. You retire at what, 66? And then by the time you hit, if you're even lucky to make 80, there's no guarantee we're going to make 80, but our mind says I'll make it to 80. Like, I always tell myself, I'll probably make it to 80. But my body may say different, It may say, no, I don't think so, you know? And so we just can wrap our minds around this sort of ordeal that we're going to live like 30 years into our retirement. Now, there may be some people that may do that. They live 30, 35 plus years into the retirement, but it's like, it's not even it's very probably minuscule. A very small percentage of people actually can probably honestly say that is the case. Let me go ahead and read the comments. Hold on. Hold on. Give me a second. I'll read the comments. Let's go. I'll start from the beginning. Hey, appreciate that, Sherry cheerleader, whoever you are. My grandma is in her 70s. She's still cafeteria lady. Worked her whole life, basically. Yep. Did you see Michael? Yep, I seen that. 94, he lives, passed away in his 90s. Yeah. My sense woke me up at 2. I'm an electrician. It would be cool. I'm retired at 50, but Yeah, we'll probably be working into our 80s. Yeah, probably so. I think they know that most people are not even going to live to see 80. They know that. Shit, I'll be lucky to make 70, bro. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just mean that from a health standpoint. I didn't make the best healthy choices, so to speak. I'll leave it at that. But I probably should have and could have, if I had a chance to rewind the clock a little bit, I probably make better healthy choices, which I think I'm doing so now. The last week I've been eating a lot healthier, so I have been doing that. Okay, trying to drop some inches so I can fit in one of my extra large t-shirts that wouldn't fucking fit 2 weeks ago. Man, it's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing, but nonetheless, man, it's just you just think, well, at least when I'm old, when I get there, I'm real old when I get there, I'll be taken care of. Time to retire, I'll be able to enjoy it, and can't wait to retire. And then you put in for it. You're like, nah, I can retire. God damn it, I'm gonna enjoy it. And then a month later, you're just like kind of sitting here, you're like, man, this shit sucks. This shit's boring. I could like do something else. So then you want to like get busy and do something else to keep your mind occupied. And then just come to find out that being in retirement kind of sucks, because then you're kind of bored. So you want to find things to do, even though it is an enjoyment because at least you get to enjoy the fruits and labors of your work. But in all like essence, it's just to think that I'm pretty sure most people work a lot longer than they actually have retirement. If you were to compare the years in comparison to the time that you've worked from the time that you retired, if you did the comparison, your retirement's probably not even a fraction of the time that you worked if you did it in comparison time versus time. Like most of our time is sucked up at work or sucked up at your job, sucked up here, sucked up there. If you include the time spent with family, if you include the time spent with friends, if you include the time spent with, I don't know, just retirement in general, it's probably not even a fraction of the time your whole entire life spent at work. It's crazy, kind of, if you think about it. It's kind of what it is. So, like, some people say, well, that's why you got to get rich early in life so that you can enjoy I guess the fruits of the labor of your job a little early. So maybe if you're in your 20s or 30s, you get rich, you can live a lot longer to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's why, like, you see a lot of these rich people down online and stuff that make some serious dough online, whether they're content streamers or whatever. They're blessed with the ability that they racked up some money and they got some cash. My biggest regret is I should have took my YouTube channel a little bit seriously and made some serious dough. You know, maybe there's a plan for me not to be. Maybe that was meant to be. I don't know. But we'll see. When it's time to retire, and the question is, am I going to live long enough to see it? Let's just, am I going to live long enough to actually make it to retirement, right? And then after that, let's say I do. So I make it to retirement. It's time to retire now. Put in for retirement, fill the form out, yada, yada, yada. Years of service, this, whatever. And then come to find out, once I retire, am I going to live long enough to see it? I mean, it's serious. Like, well, if you guys are watching and feel the same way I feel about this, like, think about it. It's time to retire. And that time will come, and then you're just like, I'm gonna get these benefits, because I put in years of work, but man, am I gonna live long enough to actually reap the benefits? When you think about it, it's kind of an ultimate scam. It's like, think about it in essence. Lay down. Lay down. So, in essence, the idea is you retire and you're like, okay, so the last 20 years of my life I can just set off in the sunset, enjoy it, and then you retire and it's like you can't even enjoy because you didn't make it to 20 years past retirement. You made it into a year or two or three. You hear these stories of people passing away a month into their retirement, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. Imagine how crazy that sounds, right? How short life really is. How short it really is. I mean, like, even if you're a youngster and you're like, man, I still got my whole life ahead of me. 10 years flies by like that. Time flies by fast. It really does. And it seems like it's even getting faster. I say, well, don't, put a lot of emphasis into it. Don't think too much into it. Then you're not supposed to think about it. It's like, well, you don't have to think about it. Just know that it happens. And then it's like, it's January 1st. Now it's December 31st. January 1st, December 31st, January 1st, January 1st, December 31st, January 1st, December 31st. And it's just like, dude, it's just how fast time really flies. Years fly by so fucking fast. It's crazy. The thought of that. The worst part is not, the retirement. Anytime you get a job, and you ask yourself, what are the benefits? And that's the first thing you ask. And then they'd say, these are the benefits, blah, 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 blah. Vacation time, sick time, blah, blah, blah. Here's your retirement benefits. It's like, well, that looks good and all. There's two questions. Number one, and a little pause, me and him had this conversation earlier about it, by the way. Number one, do I make it to retirement? Number two, let's just say I do make it to retirement, right? It's time to retire. Let's say I do. You do put in for retirement. Am I going to live long enough to enjoy it? All these benefits. Think about it. All these benefits, all the stuff that you saved up for, you've invested, whatever. Whether it's investment, saving money, IRAs, 401k, whatever you have, like, lined up, all your assets, all your ducks, everything lined up to the T. And then you put in your retirement and say it's time to settle off in the sunset. And then a month or two later, you're dead from a heart attack or whatever the case is. I mean, just imagine how crazy that sounds. That when you think of the term retirement, you think it's a long time, right? It's a long time. And you think, okay, well, I retire at 66. Okay, well, I'll live till I'm 100. In your mind, you think, I'll live till I'm 100. So, hey, that's 35 years of retirement there. Woohoo. And then, like, you're like, Rose is dead at 67 due to a heart attack from bad healthy eating choices. Had suffered a heart attack at this time on this day. Stephen Rose suffers a heart attack, massive heart attack at 67, just 1 year into his retirement. And according to the sources, it stemmed from a fact of non eating healthy, blah, 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 blah. And led to this, and that. And then cause of death unknown, but in 6 weeks we'll figure it out once we go through his carcass to figure out what, the autopsy report says, the coroner's office, whatever. Date of, death of reasoning caused by blah, 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 due to blah, 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 blah. Mines won't be so hard to figure out, by the way. But man, I'll tell you, you retire and then boom, you're dead. Like, you hear the stories of that. Just the way it is, yeah. Faster due to vivid experience, the slower brain processing each year becomes a smaller fraction of life. Yeah. Is this it? Yeah, Shady God, you are right. It's just kind of crazy because it's like you're just taught to work until it's time to hit that retirement button. Then you finally retire and boom, you're dead. That's basically like life in a nutshell. Like, you think about it, it's just like work, retirement, dead. It doesn't sound much fun, does it? So we have to invent this in our mind that it sounds like fun, but in reality, it's not. You know, let's just say, let's just say that you got to live to be 200 years old, right? Like in the Bible, it talks about humans lived up to like 700, 800 years and how we were giants and all this stuff. I don't know about that. That sounds like more like Greek mythology, you know? But let's just say, for the sake of argument, if humans could live up to like, let's just say 150, or 200, and the retirement age was 66, then that would make more logical sense because you're like, okay, you work 34 years and retire, and then you could live up to 150. Guarantee 150, guarantee 160, guarantee 170. You're like, okay, I can kind of enjoy a longer length of retirement because then that would make sense, right, little pause? It would make sense. But because we only live up, I think the average human is 77 years, which has gone up from previous decades of people dying a lot younger, people are a lot bigger, people are a lot taller. We have medications to fight off various diseases and stuff now that we might have not have had in, hundreds of years. So, herbal medicine has gotten better, health and conditioning's got a lot better. Our foods kind of got better, but then they kind of got sucked at in the same sense. You know, it's just the retirement age is 66. The average human is 77 years old in terms of the average rate of life. So imagine that if you make it to 66 to retire, and then 77 is the average, right? That's the average time it takes. That means, in theory, if let's say the average life is 77 years, so you're guaranteed to live 77. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, then in theory you'd only have 11 years to enjoy your retirement. That doesn't sound like fun, does it? I mean, it's not really a long time. It doesn't sound like a long time, does it? You know, it doesn't. I mean, just imagine all the years and all the time you lose I'm working. But you have to work. You have to make money. It's understandable, but I mean, just kind of sucks because it's like of all the time invested in your family, or is not even minuscule to the time that you put in your workplace, or you put in a job or whatever. It's just time goes by. Like, you lose so much time spending with family because you devoted so much time at work, so many years, so much time. You know, I used to thought it was a flex to work 60, 70 hours a week. Like, man, I'm on the top of the world. I'm the shit. I'm putting in all these hours. I'm the man. You know, 60, 70 hours. You just feel like it's a flex, like Superman in the camera and shit. And then you just go to realize that when time goes by, it's like, what am I flexing over, dude? It's like I'm flexing over lost time that I could be spending with my family or with my friends. But instead, I just so many hours into work, 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 work. You know, so many hours. Think of how that sounds. Too bad humans couldn't live to be 200 years, Marvin said. Then you could retire at 66 and enjoy 140, 34 years of retirement. Oh, hell yeah. That would be great. Like I said, if we could live up to be 200, this retirement would be fucking perfect. Think about it. You retire at 66, you get the full benefits, right? And then you make it to another 150 years getting paid. Man. Just think of how that sounds. Retirement. Oh. Even if you could retire, Marvin said, man, with the cost of living going up, it's extremely hard for most people to do now. Yep. That just sucks, doesn't it? I said that's why you try to retire before all that. So that way you can enjoy the fruits of your labor or even longer if you could retire at 40. Right? I'm just giving y'all something to think about tonight. I wasn't trying to stay on here all night, by the way. Definitely not going to do that. I'm falling out of sleep right now. I just wanted to make this video. Just, the thought of retirement, the thought of just retiring in the sunset, enjoying life, as they say. It all just a jaded memory. You know? That sucks thinking about it, doesn't it? Is retirement. What's worse is not living long enough to enjoy it. Just saying. Does anyone agree or disagree with this video, by the way? Got 5 people watching. I don't think any of y'all got a question or have a comment in regards to this topic. If so, then, if not, that's cool. I'll wrap it up. You have a point. Appreciate that, Jaguar, man. Well, at least somebody left a comment. But anyways, man, I guess I'll get out of here pretty soon. Wrap it up in about a couple of minutes. But it's just crazy if you think about it, how it sounds. That you work your whole life, and that's it. If you can even make it that far. And then when you do, then it's like, time to retire, time to retire. I'm not working anymore. Fuck that shit. And then a month later, dead from a heart attack. It's crazy. Oh yeah, I appreciate it, guy. That's what I'm scared of. You know, we have these talks to Jill all the time. Is the dollar gonna collapse by the time before I can even retire? Is World War III gonna kick off? This goes further into that shit. I haven't gotten to that aspect yet about World War III and all this. United States, Russia, China, all this shit. This shit gets popping off. You could forget about the dollar. You could forget about your job. Everything. It's just basic human instinct survival at this point. Like basic human instinct survival. You know, it's like I thought, you know, and don't get me wrong, there are a lot of beautiful couples and families out there I see. But it's like, you know, you grow up thinking, man, white picket fence, family, 3, 4 kids, fucking good job, good retirement. You know, in the 50s and 60s, it meant something to retire. And we've lost that in this country. The American dream, retirement, is definitely lost. It's reared its head. It's not the same as I was growing up. It was like get a job and retire. Good benefits. Think about it. Just kind of crazy thinking about it. Time to retire, right, little boss? Time to retire. You know, it's just, I don't know. Come on, boy, lay down. He likes it when I pet him. He loves it. He's a baby. Lay down, little boss. Come on. He wants me to pay attention to him. Because he's like, I don't like being ignored. I hate being ignored. I hate fucking being ignored. He does not like that shit. He hates being ignored. Anyways, a whole part of retirement. I know I sound sleepy, don't I? I'm like fighting my own subconscious. But yeah, I probably want to go to bed. Because I don't want to drag this on. Anyways, retirement, and what's worse is not living long enough to see it. Ain't that a